Good evening. I'd like to call to order Township Committee meeting for Monday, May the 12th, 2025. If you're able and willing, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's a little lag out there. Got it.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the Open Public Meeting Statement. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was sent to the Cranbury Press, Trenton Times, Home News Tribune on January 3rd, 2025, posted on the Township's website and sent to those who requested a copy of this notice. Move on to roll call. Mr. Christopher?
Here.
Mrs. Elbadawi?
Here.
Dr. Rogers?
Here.
Mr. Scott?
Here.
Mayor Kinnear?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any additions or changes to our agenda tonight?
None.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting, April 28th, 2025?
Motion. Oh, second.
Sorry.
Thank you. We're going to move on to roll call. Mr. Christopher?
Yes.
Mrs. Elbadawi?
Yes.
Dr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
And Mayor Kinnear?
Yes.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to reports and communications. So members of the committee, who wants to go first?
I don't mind. I don't mind. One of my boards met, which is the library board. We had a meeting, and they are working through their not the strategic plan, but their library packet. And I'm sitting on the subcommittee working through that with namely Michael Ferrante and Kirsty. They had a little bit of an issue last week with the building. Unfortunately, a gutter fell off of the library, and it broke a couple of the HVAC systems, and it pushed back a PSE&G meter. Mr. Burkowski, who's sitting with us today, was very instrumental in helping to get the gutters repaired, and I believe they went around the entire building to re-secure all the gutters. And they're going to work through whether it's insurance money or whatever to try to remedy the HVAC systems that are currently not working. I did, with like so much joy and pride, want to share with you all that Liz Begonis, one of the library staff members, is a recipient of the NJLA Award for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. She will be honored at the conference in Atlantic City. So congratulations to her. And the library continues to register people. We now have 56% of the town with library cards. So good job, Cranbury. Any questions for me?
Okay, Barbara?
None of my boards and commissions met, but I continue to work on with solar landscaping on getting the word out about community solar. You can save money by enrolling in a community solar program. We removed the outdated information, no longer a third-party billing. You'll get billed directly through PSE&G. We're looking at ways to possibly do automatic enrollment programs and a way to send out information in a new code in order to participate in community solar and a new landing site. And that's it.
Any questions for Barbara? No? Rob?
So, well, this is usually my quiet week. We
off
did
week?
have a school board meeting that I was able to attend. Generally, it's the end of the school year. Lots of fun concerts and goings on at the school. Of course, there's the ongoing construction with unbelievably great, fast progress. It feels like putting together giant grown-up Legos, which is really neat to watch. I think the big night this month is the United Celebration on May the 21st, which is at the school board meeting to celebrate lots of kids, and Teacher of the Year presentation will be happening on that day as well. Go to the school's website. Lots, again, of fun school year-end activities.
Matt?
Like my fellow committee members, I didn't have any of my liaison boards meet this week, so I don't have any updates.
Okay. The only thing I had is we had a very quick planning board meeting, which those words don't usually go in the same sentence together, but there were no applications. So it was a really quick meeting to move through. So that's all I had. And we have a chief here tonight. Any other updates? Okay. We have our chief of police here this evening to provide our monthly report. Welcome.
Good evening, officially. For the month of April, I had my administrative assistant send out the monthly report. Summonses are ahead of last year. Motor vehicle stops overall are ahead of last year for the month and for the year. Crashes, unfortunately, are starting to creep back up. We had a nice little lull. It was a very mild winter. And I think we had, in May alone, I think 2 days ago, we had like 7 of them in one day. So unfortunately, nicer weather, that tends to happen. Calls for service. Again, we didn't report this last year. I just thought it was something important that we share. Over 2,600 calls for service for the month of April alone. Almost 10,500 for the year. Overtime is identified under the categories as set forth: training, shift coverage, and shift extensions. Again, to reiterate, training is simply mandated, whether we need it for departmental proficiency and or state requirements. So it all comes down to that. And the numbers are there. They are creeping down after a nice couple conversations, so I'm doing my best to mitigate those numbers and offsetting what I can. Detective Bureau, again, there's a bunch of stuff that says NA at the end. We just didn't report it. So it's just, again, something that I'm trying out and seeing. I am working on a blotter, as we did speak before. So hopefully within a month or so, I'll be able to share something with you all, and then possibly the next month put that out. Take any questions. I know you guys got a packed agenda, so I was trying to be as brief as I could.
I made it to the end of Old Trenton Road
Okay.
before a police officer on a motorcycle pulled up. And I got to see what I believe was a couple hundred bicycles
Yes.
traveling down Route 130.
Yes.
Well, it made me incredibly late for an appointment. I was happy
Well
to
worth
sit
it,
there,
yeah.
and it was well worth it to
Well
see
worth
the
it.
participation. So
Yes.
could you just kind of give a
Yeah,
recap
so
of that
police
event?
unity tour is to honor those officers. Officers all over the country ride for, fallen officers that aren't able to have a voice. So we did lose an officer a couple years ago. Medically, technically on the job, in the line of duty death, but not while working. So it's tough. We were advised that his name is going to be engraved and etched in that wall, possibly next year. So we were very proud of that. To celebrate that, so there, some of our officers are down there actively riding in it, and it's just mind-boggling how many miles they do. I believe tomorrow is the day they land into Washington. They ride into Washington and they have a big ceremony, and then they'll be back. Knock on wood, everybody's safe and sound so far, and we're moving forward.
Good.
So,
Thank you for that.
yeah.
Are any of the members that are cycling this year new to this event?
Yes. One repeat rider, Sergeant Pace, Officer Seibert is new, a couple years here. And then there is an assist support, they call him. Officer Vital is also new, and then Sergeant Mayer is not new to it. He's rode and has done support before as well.
Okay. We thank them all.
Real quick, I know you're still working on the blotter, but what platform were you envisioning that being on?
There's so many out there. I'm not looking to put out people's names or pedigree information, for lack of a better term, but just to say, hey, these were the serious events that happened, and we should be sharing it, right? We shouldn't be hiding anything. Cranbury is a beautiful place to live, and people are people. So, transients or otherwise that come through, and it's just something. My goal is communication, right, and transparency. So
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at. I assure you that once that template is done, I will be more than happy to share it, if it's just with the mayor, and then she shares it with everyone, or we'll just send it like I do a monthly report. So
One last question. You
Go ahead.
mentioned, we talked about bicycles. We're gonna have bike patrols again?
we do. We have bike patrol. Training is an issue for me right now. So the younger ones and the motivated ones, the class is pretty intense. So it requires, when I went, it was 7 or 8 days, 8-10 hour days. So we are going to have it. We still have some that are certified. I do have 4 functioning bikes. It's just getting the officers on the bike. So, but for the big events like the parade, 5th of July fireworks, Halloween, anywhere where we can make an impact, where a bike Cranberry Day can really be utilized, we're going to have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Chief.
No problem.
Okay, we're going to move along for our first reading. No, what am I doing? Oh, sorry, vacancies. Happy to report that we had filled one on the Environmental Commission. So we currently still have a first alternate on the Environmental Commission and a second alternate on the Environmental Commission. We have the second alternate open on Municipal Alliance, and we have a full membership on Shade Tree, full membership for the Trade Tree Commission. So being we have a full house tonight, if anyone is interested in volunteering, those are the open vacancies that we have to volunteer.
So we're going to move on to the first reading of an ordinance that we have on tonight's agenda. Cranbury Township Ordinance Number 05-25-06, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of Cranbury, Chapter 72, entitled Construction Codes Uniform. And that second reading will be scheduled for May 27th, 2025. If we could have a motion for the introduction, please.
Motion.
Thank you. In a second.
Second.
And then we're going to move on to roll call. Mr. Christopher,
Yes.
Mrs. Elbadawi,
Yes.
Dr. Rogers,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
and Mayor Kinnear.
Yes.
Thank you. That's unanimous.
Okay. So before the second reading of our upcoming ordinance, I want to just take the time to explain a process because everybody took the time to come here and want to make sure that there's plenty of time for public comment. So I'm going to read a statement that I alone am responsible for, followed by our attorney, Kevin, who will explain a little bit more in detail about the ordinance itself and the intent of the ordinance. And then if there's any of our township committee members that would like to make any sort of statement, we'll allow them to do that. And then the floor is all yours. And I will remind everybody that public comment is limited to 3 minutes each. There's a lot of you here. If you run out of time and there's someone that wants to take your statement and carry on it so that you get all the words out, we'll do that. Everybody that's waiting outside, if you could swap out with them so that they have a chance to come in, that their seat is taken by you, we will try to do our best, which is why all of our upfront municipal business, we tried to move through very quickly in approximately 16 minutes so that we could give everybody time here. Okay, so with that said, good evening, residents of Cranbury, both in attendance tonight or joining us virtually. As always, regardless of the topic or the temperature, it's good when the community makes their voices heard and raises their concerns. And I look forward to hearing from many, if not all of you this evening. I'd like to start by addressing the numerous public comments that have been made since our last TC meeting in April, where ordinance 042505 was first read. I have personally printed, read, and highlighted over, I want to say, 400 comments that have been published on social media. I think people were asking to make sure that those comments and that you wanted to make sure that people were listening. And when I want to give you my assurances that I have read them. After doing so, I pulled what I believe are a couple of top threads that I was hearing continuously that require more information, clarity, and honestly, just some simple fact checking. And I realize that many of these comments, like most things, are assumptions because either you don't have the facts or they weren't provided to you or more information wasn't provided to you. And if you leave with one thought tonight, it's that affordable housing criteria has changed dramatically round to round over the last 40 years, making the application of older, outdated methodologies absolutely impossible and illegal. Thus, the need for us to change how we identify properties. The first thread is kind of speed to decision making, that we're rushing this process, that it's fast and ill-informed decisions, fast judgments, that we're settling or blindly taking the advice of experts. As specified in the FAQs that I had distributed, this has not been a fast process. Although if you Compare it, it's breakneck speed compared to round 3 that was dragged on for over 10 years at the state and county level. Round 4 was announced in March of 2020. 1 month later, in April of 2024, March of 2024. 1 month later, in April of 2024, the township began working with the same affordable housing attorney and consultants it had worked in past rounds. An affordable housing subcommittee was formed, as it also was in years past. Property identification began immediately through the subcommittee and communicated to the entire TC. Closed sessions were held to review countless properties and their viability to prepare for the state to reveal our obligation numbers. Hypothesizing our obligation numbers were going to be greater than round 3, we began vetting affordable housing development firms, including the one used for round 3. October of 2024, the township was notified of our affordable housing obligation number of 314, which was then adjusted down to the published 265 number. Additionally, CHA was asked to create a property identification plan focused on a 25-unit or below property. So to be clear, this TC, apart from Mr. Christopher, has been engaged in the round 4 process for 13 months. I personally don't feel this was a gun to the head process. This brings me to the next common thread of property identification and state mandated criteria. Sewer, water, close to mass transportation, and a 200-foot warehouse distribution buffer zone. The last criteria came only 3 months ago, after we had already reviewed a significant number of properties. Knowing criteria could be added at a moment's notice is exactly why we consult and engage with experts. As I stated in the mayor's update, round 4 is different than round 3, which is different than round 2, which is different than round 1. Now, in the middle of the original round 4, it's different than round 4 with that new 250-foot buffer zone. So even within the round we're in, the floor is now moving under our feet. So any statement saying this township is not following the way it has for decades is factually true, but completely misleading because we cannot follow those same processes because the criteria has changed. Taking into consideration this new criteria, I hope residents can understand how the funnel of properties began getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Each criteria will take one at a time. Sewer and water. This is the most restrictive of the requirements for our town in terms of available land. Cranbury as a township has very limited land available west of Route 30 that can meet this criteria. I know because I live in a community without sewer. Due to our open space and protected farmland already in place, there simply was no way to meet the 265-unit obligation and meet the sewer and water requirement. Mass transit availability. One could argue we're currently not meeting this criteria, but it will be highly enforced. There is no train or bus route that goes through downtown Main Street, Cranbury. We are a transit desert, in my opinion, except for Route 130. We are working closely with Middlesex County and updating New Jersey transit proposals for our area to help satisfy this requirement. The 200-foot warehouse and distribution center buffer. This requirement, added late into the process, had a profound effect on our land availability. Land that had been identified was now ruled out. When you combine all of this criteria, the TC was left with a very short list. Our obligation is 265. Our goals have always been more ambitious. Ideally, integration into our town, seamlessly allowing seniors and families to feel a part of this special community and access to incredible schools. It became very clear from October to March of 2025 that the criteria and goals were at odds with one another. Which brings me to the next thread. Cranbury Village, statements surrounding the township not wanting affordable housing, not wanting more residents, not wanting more cars, traffic, etc. This is unequivocally not true. Approximately 429 units are located in downtown Cranbury, all of which have access to Main Street. Stating that walking distance to the village was a top criteria is also not true. It was a goal based on land availability at the time. Traffic impact on the downtown was not mentioned in the FAQs, and the mere suggestion that affordable housing is not welcome in downtown or in Cranbury in general is offensive. Let me conclude with the following. I am not a lawyer. I am not an affordable housing consultant. I'm not a lobbyist. I'm not an attorney, no disrespect. I'm not an affordable housing developer. This also is not the criteria of my job on the Township Committee. When challenges arise, we work and seek the advice of experts to help us navigate the current situation. We have to work and be compliant with New Jersey state law and the New Jersey Constitution. The fight to change this is at the state level. Municipalities have been given a disproportionately tighter time frame for compliance than round 3. So far, we are compliant with the law and will submit our plan to the state as required by June 30th. Bypassing this ordinance, we are now able to do our due diligence on these properties, negotiate to the best of our ability, and avoid builder's remedy. With that, I'll open up to my fellow TC. I'll open it up to Kevin to explain the ordinance further, and then to our Township Committee members if they'd like to make any sort of statement. Thank you for listening.
Good. Thank you, Mayor. And the one comment that I will add to your eloquent comments, not only has the criteria changed, what is before you tonight is an ordinance that is a break from past tradition that is built on the success of the prior planning efforts. I was here definitely through the 3rd round and at the end of the 2nd round, where it was a very deliberate move by the governing bodies through the years to effectuate the master plan in order to try to consolidate and focus and preserve the village by allowing residential growth and development to occur around the village on this side of Route 130. The success of those efforts is in part what brings us here tonight, because those opportunities of any size or scale that allows the municipality to meet its obligation have been maxed out. And that is why there is an ordinance before you tonight, specifically, and for the record and for the hearing, it is proposed ordinance 04-2505. And this is an ordinance that authorizes the acquisition of certain real property located at 1234 South River Road, officially block 2.01 lot 1, and 1274 South River Road, which is block 5 lot 1601, for affordable housing purposes. As the mayor had alluded to, the first 2 rounds were relatively stable in that COA, the state agency, was tasked to create obligations for municipalities, and municipalities were able to formulate plans to meet those obligations. Cranbury did so successfully and with foresight, which really positioned Cranbury for the mess that occurred with round 3 when COA changed its methodology, and ultimately over 10 years of litigation resulted in it going back to the courts in 2015. And Cranbury was again able to actually move forward, create a plan, and get through the court process very deliberately and with forethought. That actually then initiated the planning that it culminates in tonight. While Cranbury was kind of looking forward and we were working on implementing the round 3 plan, there was some initial, the homework that was done through 2015 and 2016 to do that formed the basis that was able to give over to the committee, which we were able to look at. Since that time, Cranbury also has continued to grow, which also limited opportunities that were available. In March of last year, the New Jersey legislature, and signed by the governor, amended the Fair Housing Act that the mayor alluded to, which changed the landscaping, changed crediting opportunities. And then when you pair that with some of the other planning changes that are coming down, for instance, the 250-foot buffer that will be going around Warehouse, unduly affects a municipality like Cranbury that is dependent upon both a deliberative planning exercise to consolidate residential development and also has a significant amount of warehousing development. Those parameters don't necessarily affect other municipalities that do not have those types of demographics. That is what forced the committee to start looking at what the options are. And the 2 properties that are set forth in this ordinance, again, that's 1234 South River Road and 1274 South River Road, meet a host of criteria that has suitable access points, suitable utilities, and are in a position that would enable the municipality to actually meet its obligation, which is very important for preservation of the master plan, in order for the municipality to control its own growth and development this round going into the future, and also takes into account, allows the municipality to plan for growth in a manner that addresses the families that are in need and also reduces some of the other financially crippling aspects that municipalities face trying to meet these affordable housing obligations. That while the housing becomes available, and which is a great thing, and it's an important and a constitutional obligation to do, there are real practical, real world considerations that go with having to expand transportation networks, roadways, infrastructure, and the impacts on schools. So these two sites will actually allow the municipality to proceed with a very well thought out plan, looking at maximizing those opportunities, meeting the obligation. The ordinance itself sets forth the public purpose, and this is to meet the municipality's constitutional obligation to provide a realistic opportunity for affordable housing in this round. And it allows the municipality to take all of those necessary steps. So for instance, get the appraisals, do any due diligence, and officially authorizes negotiations with the property owners, so that we can actually put together and submit a compliant plan at the end of next month, which is the obligation under the amendments to the Fair Housing Act that occurred last year. So.
And it's also important to mention, which I did put in the FAQs, when we submit that plan to the state, based on what we know today, we'll release that number to the public. It'll be made public. And we believe at this point that that formal number will be south of 200. So the 265, we believe, will go down based on everything we know today. So just a little foresight into that, but that will become formalized when we submit that plan the end of June.
Mayor, and I'll just add on that, just so, because I know there were some comments and some individuals had reached out. There were questions about whether or not the governing body, in some ways criticism of the governing body for not challenging the number. I just will say that challenging the number was examined and was part of a very deliberative thought process. When the Fair Housing Act was amended, it did task the Department of Community Affairs with essentially coming up with basic numbers that municipalities were able to then look at and either rely upon or challenge. And we did look at challenging the number. But as the mayor had alluded to earlier, Cranbury's mathematical calculations are actually 314. That is based on a host of factors within the housing region, and it's very technical. But essentially that number was 314. By virtue of caps that the municipality is able to take advantage of, it brings the mathematical calculation from 314 down to 265. So any attempt to challenge the calculated obligation would have been based upon the 314 number, not the 265 number. So any challenge would have had to reduce the obligation significantly in order for the municipality to have any benefit of that. It also ran the risk of two things. There are very specific factors. There are three primary factors that go into the calculation of that obligation. And any challenge of the obligation ran two potential issues. One, if you're going to put your number in play, those factors would be evaluated both for a negative adjustment, meaning it would bring your obligation down. But if through that process they found errors the other way, it also ran the risk that your number could go up. The other thing that a challenge would have done was invited challenges from developers or advocacy groups that were challenging municipalities' essential challenges, because of the implications it does both to the regional need and the entire court process that is set up under the Fair Housing Act amendments. So when we looked at the data sets, it was believed that in looking at those factors that there was no real appreciable way that that number was going to get anywhere below the 265 by virtue of the cap that would have made it worthwhile to actually run the risk of the other kind of aspects of a challenge.
Thank you, Kevin. Any other TC member like to make a comment?
I'm just wondering out loud, I don't know how many people really understand what the builder's remedy is, and maybe if you could just very simply put that forward as to what that, what the risk
Sure.
of that looks like. Thank you.
Sure. In the original Mount Laurel decision, basically the original Mount Laurel case stemmed from a municipality, South Jersey, Mount Laurel, that attempted to control essentially the demographics of the municipality by using the powers of zoning. And so they kind of, in a plain English kind of way, they decided that they wanted large lot to bring in certain, demographics into the town. The Supreme Court struck that down, saying that if your municipalities do not have to use the powers of zoning, that is a discretionary power, but if they do so, they have to do it equitably for all members of society that could potentially reside in the municipality. Mount Laurel thanked the Supreme Court for their opinion, promptly threw it away, did not listen, which resulted in the Mount Laurel 2 case. And that's where the court, this New Jersey Supreme Court, gave teeth to the doctrine and said that if a municipality is not compliant with its constitutional obligation, it will allow developers, property owners, interested parties to actually file a challenge in court asserting that the municipality is not compliant with its obligation. And then the burden shifts to the municipality to actually affirmatively demonstrate to the court that it is compliant with its obligations. And if it is unable to do so, then the court will award what is called a builder's remedy. And that allows a developer to take a piece of property and supersede the zoning and the master plan, and essentially build units on site under the auspices of the court and under the approval of the court. So it essentially supersedes your planning boards, your zoning boards, your master plan process, setting aside a portion of the development's units for affordable housing purposes. That has tremendous repercussions because, as I alluded to before, once a developer is entitled to a builder's remedies, other things can happen. Sewer lines get extended, roads may need to get widened, traffic gets increased. There is a significant, generally speaking, approximately 80% of the units that get constructed are market rate units, so that you end up with a split where they're providing about 20% affordable housing. So if they were able to do a 100-unit development, for instance, they could put 20 affordable housing units on and use the 80 market rate units to actually financially fund the construction of those 20. For a town like Cranbury, which also does not have its own high school, there are school district impacts because with that mix of market rate units, family units, the affordable housing units, there are some towns that it's compelled them to actually look at expansions of school facilities, constructing whole new school facilities, or for instance, in a town like Cranbury, it may actually have implications for the receiving district in this town, for Princeton. Recognizing that the receiving district of Princeton also has its own affordable housing obligations. And so they are actually in the process now of looking at how to accommodate the school children from Princeton's own development. So it could actually have exponential impacts for Cranbury and other towns that are situated like Cranbury.
So in other words, if a builder's remedy were to be granted in Cranbury, can you not hear me? Okay. So if a builder's remedy was granted in Cranbury, how many units at the end of a builder's remedy, how many units would exist after construction, roughly?
Well, if you're looking at, normally a 20% set aside, I mean, you're going to be looking at, probably just under 1,000 units, 800 units that could be built under builder's remedies with a 20% set aside. And it also, the 20% is a general rule, but as part of the court process, the developer will put its financial pro forma, or can put its financial pro forma up to the court if there are impediments. So if they have to run infrastructure, sewer lines, and those types of things, that either may need additional densities or the set aside may need to change in order for the project to be financially feasible. And you saw this most recently on scale post-COVID with supply chain issues and the cost of goods going up, that developers, that projects that financially penciled out prior to the COVID, the pandemic, actually did not and needed, governmental subsidies or needed additional densities or you end up with quality of construction, issues where they'll try to reduce the cost for the development. So there are exponential factors that go into that as well. So, and it's also kind of mindful of the changes at the federal level. The other side of it is that there is kind of an impetus to try to get the plan essentially put together and submitted, because even at the state level, the tax credit program that funds a lot of municipal affordable housing are federal low-income housing tax credits. And certainly with the changes that are going on at the federal level right now and uncertainties on funding, it makes it all the more challenging to put together a plan that balances all the needs of the municipalities and makes it feasible, and to do so in a manner that we can do so and try to get in before the buffers change, which will also limit additionally land area that can be utilized, or you'll be acquiring property that will not be suitable for the use of affordable housing. And then the changes at funding levels, both at the state and federal level.
What is the date that Cranbury is at risk for this builder's remedy potentially? What is the date after which?
The outside date, so the Fair Housing Act amendment specifies that a housing element and fair share plan, that's essentially our affordable housing plan, must be submitted to the court within 48 hours of adoption and no later than June 30th of this year, essentially a month and a half from now. And that there are almost no extensions that were built into the Fair Housing Act that did exist in prior rounds. So you could petition COA if you could explain and seek an extension. You could do that in the court process. We had court rules that are essentially for good cause shown. A judge had within its discretion to grant extensions. The Fair Housing Act essentially curtailed that, and it's basically it's an act of God that would enable a municipality to get an extension. Other than that, it is a drop dead deadline.
And what do you mean by act of God?
So if there were, for instance, if we had a meeting scheduled and most recently, in central Pennsylvania, they had, essentially tornadoes and stuff like that caused power outages throughout, the western half of the state, something like that. Hurricane Sandy, an issue like that essentially caused municipal operations to cease and essentially to go into emergency mode. That would probably qualify. Short of that, because there are, additional due diligence, because there are, looking to do sites, because of other external, pressures. Those are not going to be sufficient reasons under the amendments to the Fair Housing Act to get an extension.
Thank you.
Just real quick, I know there's some, I'll be quick. As the newest member of this committee, I just want to not speak for all of us, but I want to say this brings us no joy, right? We're in this position and we are not thrilled to be in this position. And I want everybody to understand that. That's number one. Number two, again, being the newest member of this committee, I'm thoroughly impressed by the due diligence that has been done prior to me coming on board. It was prior to me, it was about 10 to 12 months of work that went into this. And that's time spent by everyone else up at this table. That's number two. Number three, I think there's a real concern on Facebook that there are backroom deals being done. Sorry. There's a real concern that there are concerns about backroom deals. The five of us have differences of opinions all the time, but I have faith in my fellow committeemen that is not the case. And it actually, that insinuation really hurt me. I think it's unnecessary and I don't think it's true. We're here to do the work. We're here to do what's right for the town. And we're in a spot that is, again, not great. And we do not take joy in this proceeding. Thanks.
Okay, with that, we're going to open it up to public comment.
Just kind of echoing Rob's comments. What, louder? Louder. This has been a 13-month process, and I know that social media, Facebook, it's really an echo chamber. People hear things and they don't know the context, they don't know the history. But this has been 13 months. As you heard from Kevin, our attorney, the stipulation and regulations kept getting narrower and narrower and we only have a certain number of properties we can look at. I can tell you that we looked at over 50 properties. Every property owner was contacted or attempted to contact either through phone call or for certified letters through the mail or actually in person. And one of our primary goals in looking at these properties was to not take away someone's residence, which I think we've addressed. And as Kevin brought up, we really want to avoid builder's remedy. It's a zero-sum game for us if we get into that situation. And as Rob referenced, this is not where we want to be, but we're trying to do what's best for the town, trying to get ahead of this. And we're in a difficult position, but this is really the best of some bad choices that we have to make. With that being said, I also want to just commend the idea of getting affordable housing. I mean, nationally, there's a housing crisis, and this, I think, is a way to help alleviate some of that pain for people. And I know there's a lot of heat and a lot of emotion in the room, but I just want you to know, we've been doing our due diligence. We're trying in a very difficult and trying situation. We're trying to find the best possible remedy, and I think that this is it.
And I think I'm echoing the township committee members. We do not take this decision lightly. You can hear that there was a subcommittee. There was a process, an actual process. And I always look for the plan. I look in the master plan. I did my own research. I make sure, I looked at the farmland preservation process, the county and state. We heard that, every property was, looked at as, best as possible. And I just want you to know, as a resident, I'm a resident. You're all residents. We're all part of this town together. So when I make a decision, I make it for my family as well. So I feel like I'm making the best decision for our municipality, for Cranbury, and with the criteria, the very, very, very difficult criteria that we were set up against and the deadlines that we were set up against. So, this was created by the Affordable Housing, a state law and a constitutional obligation. So I think hopefully you're getting a little bit more understanding of what the process has been and how difficult it is for all of us.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to open up to public comment. I don't know if you want to kind of do this in order of row and then moved out to the hallway, or you have your own plan. Again, a reminder that we have a 3-minute limit. If you can't finish in 3 minutes, designate someone to help finish your thoughts and tag them out. And then once we're finished with everybody in the room, we'll then move outside and let those people have an opportunity to come in. When you walk up, please sign your name, just state your name and your address. And yeah, just sign the sheet there. Okay, thank you. Oh, and turn on the microphone until it goes red. I think it's whatever button keeps it red.
But this is on the ordinance.
And this public comment is specifically to this ordinance. We'll have general public comment at the end of our meeting like we normally do. So this public comment is specific to this ordinance. Thank you, Deborah.
Michael Cravan, Brainerd Drive. I really don't care what numbers they propose to you guys. I'm here tonight with deep concern. About the direction our town is being asked to take. This proposal requiring us to build additional housing under state mandate is wrong on many levels. At what point do we say enough is enough? Cranbury has long upheld the obligations of the Mount Laurel Doctrine, often exceeding what was required. We now face impossible demand. We have little suitable land left, yet we're being asked by officials in Trenton to build more. Even worse, we're preparing to invoke eminent domain, a tool that, in my view, undermines the very principles of property rights that we hold dear. Are we really prepared to take a family's farmland that has been in their hands for generations to meet a state requirement? Do we now define the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as conditional unless we need your land for low-income housing? This is not just a question of numbers or zoning. It is about people, about families who built this town, who remember when Cranbury was still open farmland, not warehouses and traffic. Andy's family has farmed this town for longer than most of us have lived here. Ask yourselves, is the farm deteriorating? Is it not more aesthetically pleasing and environmentally valuable to preserve the open space, the cows and the animals at the township's edge, rather than replace it with dense housing development? We are the garden state, and even if this land is not officially preserved, are these homes not historic in their own respect? I believe this community would support an ordinance to protect and preserve these properties as opposed to building on them. Beyond the moral questions, the proposal would place significant strain on our schools, emergency services, and infrastructure. It is not in the public interest. It undermines public welfare and would be an economic burden to our town. I understand that you may feel legally obligated to comply, but I urge you to remember this. This decision does not respect the legacy, values, or future of our town. It jeopardizes the very character we have worked so hard to protect. If I were in your seat, I would vote no. I would rather take my chances in the courts than put my name on something that takes away a family's legacy for an unfunded state mandate. Please consider the long-term impact of your decision before you vote tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, okay.
Good evening. My name is Timothy Dugan.
Can you sign in there?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For Great, thank you. My name is Timothy Dugan. I'm an attorney with Stark & Stark. I'm here with my client, Andy. I'm here on behalf of Henry Realty.
If you want to sit and talk directly in
Great,
there.
thank you.
There you go.
Sorry about that. Since we have limited time, clearly my client objects to this. I think you have the history of his property. Our main objections have to do with your master plan that I believe you've been speaking about, and the inconsistencies of this project, the designation of this project, and where you put in the affordable housing as it comes to the consistency with both your master plan and how you've planned your township, which, looking at it in history, you actually have done, I think, a very good job. When I looked at your master plan, I went back and looked at the amendment from 2000 and the farmland and the emphasis you put on trying to preserve your farms and the farmland to try to keep the rural nature of your township, which is hard in these days. I understand that. But you do have an operating farm in an area that up to this point has been consistent with your master plan and the reexamination. And I've tagged a lot of parts in here, but I think you know what your master plan says on all the different policies and objectives. Another part of that master plan is the consistency of where you've put your commercial development, your industrial development, sandwiched between the Turnpike and east of 130. And in that area is all industrial. And I believe that, again, it's inconsistent to now flip in a light industrial zone in an area that you've intentionally and done well, got your ratables, and now want to put a residential project in the middle of it, sandwiched between the Turnpike and Route 130. The sewer, the water, the setbacks, all of those are criteria. But the criteria here that I'm looking at is what you have done in your master plan, what you've intended to do, and what you've accomplished, and how inconsistent removing an operating farm, there's not a lot of them, from your inventory and putting the affordable housing in this part of your township where you've intentionally tried to push your ratables. And it is good to keep them all together. But to try to put a inclusionary project like this in there is just inconsistent with everything, including the goals of the affordable housing. I did have one question. I'm not sure if you have it now. Is the plan going to be 100% or set aside mixed units, or you don't know at this point?
We're not in a position to talk about the plan yet, obviously, because we're in litigation. So.
Right. Okay. I think that's one of the questions that, I've been peppered with. And so I guess I'm probably right up against my 3 minutes, but our main challenge is it's just not consistent with your master plan, your goals in the master plan of preserving these farms. And it's inconsistent with what you've done in terms of where you've placed your industrial development and now where you are having this inclusionary. My time?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
We'll
you.
be in contact.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much.
You have 3 minutes if there's anything that you would like to say or not with your attorney, but you additionally have 3 minutes if you'd like to speak.
I'll speak a little later.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. Jay Taylor, Cranbury, South Main Street, former mayor, former committee member. I was part of the tail end of round 2 and fully engaged in round 3. Yes, the rules changed in all rounds. This is New Jersey after all. We also never waited for the round 3's rules to be set, as Kevin can attest to. We began immediately after round 2. So while I understand 12 months seems like a long period of time, it was not long enough. We had ample time after round 3. But what never changed in all of this was our town's values and the way we've always handled these obligations with transparency, balance, and respect for our community. Through each round, we've successfully met our affordable housing obligations without falling into the chaos of a builder's remedy lawsuit, because we planned ahead and we stayed true to our process. Let's be honest, round 5 is coming, which means we should be identifying viable land options, not just for today, but for the future, in a way that's thoughtful, legal, and aligned with who we are as a town. And in that process, and by the committee's own comments tonight in the FAQ, there are other options than Andy's farm. I'm not here tonight to oppose affordable housing. I'm here to stand up for integrity of the process, of principle, and of people. One of those people is Andy, who has stewarded his land and his family's land in our spirit of preservation for over 150 years, not for profit, but from a deep-rooted connection to this town and its soil. Its farm, long designated by the governing bodies as a vital environmental buffer in a light industrial zone, plays a critical role in stormwater management and ecological balance. As Mayors Cook and Mulligan themselves have attested online, this land was always intended for preservation. Andy never asked for a dime, though. He did it out of the goodness of his heart and for the roots of his family's legacy. Now we frame this as a site for affordable housing. It strains belief that with the other people element that we never shied away from, which is inclusivity. We want our children, our seniors, our working families to stay here, but this proposal doesn't reflect that long-standing commitment. It's been an opaque process and misaligned with our values. Worse, it's been questionable. Andy went to the mail one day to find a letter addressed "Dear Sir" or "Dear Madam," threatening him with "Sell your land or we will take it." We've seen this letter at this point. He was a good citizen of the town, and this is how we treated him. There was no upfront discussion. There was no communication or phone call. Andy was wanting to reach out, and when he did ask to meet with officials, he came in good faith. As a resident, as a farmer, he asked for an informal discussion about the letter. And so he came without counsel, though represented, and despite the town knowing he had legal representation, that meeting under those conditions of coming in while represented present an ethical perception, if not concern, that the town had their attorney and he did not. Then there's the developer. According to your own FAQs and comments tonight, the developer was involved in the process and appearing to be involved in the site selection. That means a private party in a non-transparent process. Sorry, anybody want to finish?
No, no,
I don't think
you got to read it.
You don't have to read it. Thank you, Wendy.
Okay.
Where are you at?
Right there.
Jay, did you sign in?
No, I will right now.
Okay.
Right here. Then there's the developer.
Before you start, Wendy, just let him sign in and you sign in, please. Thank you.
I have a timer here that I'm keeping for everyone.
It just depends on when you
So
push
stop
it.
talking, we'll be able to do
Where does
it.
it start?
Right there.
Oh, then there's,
Yeah, thank you.
sure. Wendy Dillon, Station Road. Then there's the developer. According to your own FAQs and comments tonight, the developer was involved in the process and appearing to be selected the site. That means that a private party in a non-transparent process had an influence on the decisions that should have been purely public and that the developer potentially stands to profit from it. If this same developer who is on the letter continues without a formal RFP or competitive process, it raises the specter of conflict of interest. That's not even transparency. That's the accountability. And it's not what this town has ever stood for. And finally, this isn't a designated redevelopment zone. And while affordable housing allows some leeway. That means that the town has questionable legal authority to bypass bidding, assembly parcels by eminent domain, or offer pilots. Yet, you are acting as if you do. Andy deserves better. This community deserves better. And those in future affordable housing deserve better than this process. I urge you, hit pause. Shine light on this process. Rebuild trust with your residents. We're not against progress, and this is not political, but we are for doing it the right way and for ensuring our residents and farmland is protected. Thank you. I also want to add, shame on Matt, shame on Robert, shame on Deborah, shame on Lisa, shame on Iman, shame on Barbara, shame on Denise. You sat here and said, please feel bad for us. We worked 12 months on this. When a man has a farm for 150 years and you want to take it, and you're just sitting there going, we worked for 12 months on this. This isn't easy. I lose sleep. Get right out of here. Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Who's next?
Susan Ryan, 9 Prospect Street.
Can you sign in?
Sign in.
We won't start
Thank
the
you.
clock
It
till
helps me
you.
to keep it straight. Thank you, Susan.
Just the name?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
just
your
name
address.
is fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Hello. Okay. You may know me. I am a licensed architect in town, and I have been a Historic Preservation Commission member since 2016. I was around when the 2019 master plan reexamination took place. So that's what I want to talk about. So another aspect of the master plan that we talked a lot about tonight is the historic preservation element. And the Historic Preservation Commission was tasked with considering designating individual properties outside of our historic districts, we have 2, as historic sites worthy of preservation. So to that end, this year, I wanted to let you know that we have applied for a certified local government grant to survey a total of 87 properties within Cranbury, and 65 of those lie outside the village district. So they include properties such as the 2 that you are discussing right now. So I just wanted to say that the Historic Preservation Commission looks forward to working with you, the township, to achieve respectful treatment of properties that are involved in this, this project of yours. That's it.
Thank you. Sorry.
I'm prepared.
When
You
I
are
say
too.
go.
And I've got to sign this. You're not going to start the watch yet, are you?
And also, just speak as loudly as you can. Thank you. Into the
So that
microphone.
they can hear you.
Speak as loudly as you can into the microphone so they can hear you outside. Thank you.
Can people hear me?
The red light's on. The red light's on.
Okay. I'm starting my clock. First off, I want to thank you all for the work you've been doing. You're all volunteers. I appreciate and understand that. And especially I was favorably impressed with the information that's been passed out to the town, especially the mayor's last newsletter on the 2nd of May, and the FAQs were very helpful. Now I'm going to talk about the location, which I guess is one of the main issues. You Mayor, and Mr. Van Hise, gave a lot of your time to explaining why there were no other solutions or no other good solutions than to put some of the affordable housing on the other side of Route 130. This would be a serious departure from past practice. And I think you both explained that things are different this year and we don't necessarily are able to stick with past values that we had. But the idea of keeping a unified town integrated where people can walk to it or at least drive to it easily, to Village, and keeping them on this side of Route 130 for safety and other reasons was such a strong principle that it's not easily put aside. And I think that's the reason why people are upset about this. Frankly, we don't understand or really know enough to understand all the factors that you've had to consider. But that one just stands out as something that is objectionable. And I would hope on my own behalf that you can find an alternate solution that doesn't require putting houses on the other side of Route 130. The other thing that is important tonight is the situation of Mr. Henry's property. We understand that the township is considering taking it by eminent domain. And I base what I'm saying on that assumption or that concept. Is it one of your plans to take it by eminent domain, or can you not say?
I can't specify that the ordinance authorizes that. The ordinance authorizes that, but because there is actually a process that's set forth in the statute and by court rule, even before we can have the negotiations and do the due diligence, we need the authority to do that because we're a public entity. So the ordinance essentially authorizes all of the due diligence and having the formal negotiations that we can't do without the ordinance in place.
Well, this is a heart-wrenching story. Once again, when eminent domain is involved, it's a case of almost always the little guy getting rolled over by the larger government authority and losing his property, which he didn't want to lose. And it sits very badly on people's minds, just knowing that that's going to happen, including my own. So I would urge you also to find a way to not have to take his property. Thank you for your time.
My name is Caroline Wisniewski. I live at 45 North Main Street. So I don't understand why no one reached out to Mr. Henry before he received the letter asking if he was even interested. You tell us that you did all this work, but you did not, you have not listened to your CHPS and your HPC folks, because we've met with them a few times, and yet they've been telling us you're not listening, you're not listening. So this is not a transparent process in government, and I've been a civil servant for 37 years. We talk about transparency and competitive bidding. We don't see any of that. If you want it to be transparent, why is this meeting in this tiny little room? You saw social media. You knew what was being said in town, and yet you persisted in having the meeting here. In addition, we would like to see what these other properties are that you say that you looked into, and yet you've rejected. And again, why is there a builder CC'd on this memo or this letter that hasn't been competitively bid out? I would be fired if I wrote a letter and I had a vendor on the letter. So I don't understand why that happened. So if you really want, you just don't seem to be understanding how this town works. even though you're on the committee, and the pulse of what this town is looking for. No, I don't agree with dropping the Mount Laurel housing. I think affordable housing is a very important component, but in reality, what you're doing for the rest of this town is not working. You're not being transparent, and you're not, we deserve better. Thank you.
Good evening. I think you know me. I'll just put my name here. My name's Robert Dillon. I live at 32 Heightstown, Cranbury Station Road. Lived here 53 years. And I would like to say that, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Directly in there, close as you can get.
Okay. I would like to say that the area that you have, that ends up being chosen or you're talking about, this couldn't be worse area. And the reason is you have the turnpike on one side, screaming trucks, fumes, you name it, going down that road. I even have them jump the fence and knock on my door trying to get in. But then on the other road is South River Road. South River Road is about, I would say, 70% as busy as Route 130. Terrible traffic. And I can't see putting people out in that area alongside of that kind of an environment and say that that's part of Cranbury. You wouldn't move out there. None of you. But yet you choose to put somebody else out there. And what I really don't like is what at the 11th hour we're here. You don't have enough time to change your minds or go future. You can't ask for time. They don't give you time. That's wrong. No matter how you cut it, that's wrong. The people should have been involved in this a year ago. Ask the people, where would you like to have these houses built? Give me some inclination. Let us combine our heads to see what we come up with. No, nobody was involved with it. And here we are. A bad place to put people and no other place known where we can go and no time to do it in. That's my biggest problem. Okay. And I'm sorry that it turned out this way, but I know the 11th hour. Personally, I think that preserved farmland and the way it's worded, that it has to provide use for the public, has to be a public use. While the state mandated that we have to do this affordable housing, they told us we got to put the housing here. So I don't see no reason why it's housing, it's for the public, it's for people, and it's mandated by the state. Why can't they put a slice of that to preserve farmland in a situation where we could use it as for this affordable housing, like they're members of our community? Okay, and not that I'm saying I'm afraid to open that door, because next thing you know, our farmland will be all gone because of that use. What options do you have? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else inside the room? Okay. Oh, okay. Before you start, I think there's a couple of empty chairs, so anyone that's outside waiting to make a public comment, if you could find a seat in here, that'll start making things a little bit easier. As long as you can hear out there anything that's being said, we appreciate it. And Steve, can you sign in? Even
All good.
Thank you.
Signed in. Okay. So yes, Steve Golisano, Prospect Street. Everyone can speak right into this microphone as close as possible. It's going to be uncomfortable, but that's the way they can hear us on YouTube. So I don't have fully prepared remarks for today. I just want to thank everyone for listening to everyone and taking the time to listen, and for everyone for coming. really, I think that one miss that was done with the criteria that was set up with this decision for this farmland is not that, it seems like it was something that was chosen that residents wouldn't care about because it's off in the distance, separated from it. And I think that's a big miss. Everyone cares about remote properties that are historic and that are open space. Now, it's not preserved farmland technically with the state county, but it is open space farmland. It's not a designated historic site, but it is an old farmhouse that's on this property. It is a historic building. This HPC had started the process when I was on the commission for 5 years ago for this, in identifying properties in outside of the district. Some of the criteria that I think was also a miss that can be considered as if you are able to reconsider this is that the sewer expansion and that public sewer areas are locked in exactly where they are currently. I think that a strong way to look at this criteria would be to look at improving the town, in improving land that's already in bad shape or land that could be made better, and not building on pristine farmland. And these are decisions that I think they're tough because it takes the foresight to see it, and some of the things that are outside of our control with county or state roads, that are totally understandable. But this takes a vision from you guys to put forward to them, and you could use this as an opportunity to create a stronger connection to town, to fix existing problems, to improve the land and the town, to look at delinquent or hardship properties that would be willing to sell. I mean, maybe have, but there may be others that may hear about this and may reach out to you afterward. We don't want to limit CHA's involvement with this to only one specific criteria. They have a wealth of knowledge, and I understand that things have changed, but they have vast knowledge in this. Also, working with HPC is important. We don't want to vilify anyone on this township committee. It may come that way because it's a very passionate topic, but we need to correct these decisions that were made that I think are a little misguided. But thank you for hearing me and appreciate it.
Thank you.
Tim Brennan, 10 Park Place East. Thank you for each one of you for your time and commitment to this situation. And I call it a situation because it's dire. The fact that we are going in as a town or state or whatever the entity is and using eminent domain to take a farm that's been in the family for 150 years, to me, I would be embarrassed to make that decision. The way that the letter was sent, if that's the truth, was also, to me, not the right way to do it. Most of you up there are landowners, and I want you to think for a second about how you would feel if you got a letter saying that your farm, your land, your property is being taken. Now add on 150 years worth of your family's history being there. There has to be another solution. I don't know what it is. I know that other towns, West Windsor being one of them, has ignored for many years, and I'm sure they're being hit with whatever fines or whatever it is. We've lived up to our obligations and done a really nice job. But the farm, to me, is not the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff Grundy, 3 Bunker Hill. I'm speaking on behalf of my wife, who can't be here tonight. And picking up on what was said about living between South River Road and the Turnpike, I don't think that's not my cup of tea. And I would not place anyone in that particular situation. It strikes me you cannot walk into town from those places. There is no way. It must be 2 miles, and it's on a busy road. Donna and I reject the motion. Wayne Whitman, 97 South Main Street, Cranbury. First and foremost, I've been in your position, so I know what you're going through tonight and what you're going to have to go through in the very near future. As background, I was on the Township Committee for 9 years, the mayor of the community. I dealt with the first 3 rounds. The mayor is correct. Round 4 is different than round 3, is different than round 2, and is different than round 1. All of the rounds are different, but with my involvement on the Township Committee, the one thing that I did not see here, and it's unfortunate, is that we involved all the different boards and different people, school board, planning board, zoning board, in our meetings, closed door, to get their opinions, to get their observations, to get their knowledge. To the best of my knowledge, nobody, and this is just an observation, to the best of my knowledge, nobody from the planning board was even asked to participate in this process, which is unfortunate because you didn't have to do this alone. You're taking all this on yourself, and you didn't have to do that. There was a lot of people. CHA, Mark Bukowski, we worked together hand in hand with the first 3 rounds. So moving forward in this, if you do have things that you need help with, we're here, okay? We're not, and it would make it easier on all of you. You don't have to fight this battle alone. Secondly, I'm not going to comment on a property specifically because I don't want to conflict myself in the future for something I may have to decide on with the whole process here. But with your observation that I know you have to have a plan in by the 30th, is there any way that plan can be modified after it's submitted? Can you submit a plan and say, we have a better way to build a mousetrap? Is that an option?
Yeah, it is possible to amend a plan. There are legal hoops that would need to be followed for that. So,
And we might be able to use Cranberry's past experiences in affordable housing. We've been lauded by the state as having a great affordable housing situation here in town. We've met all our rounds. We've built great affordable housing. People are proud to live in it, proud to look at it. We integrate it in our community. Again, there's different ways to do things. I know you're faced with some tough situations, but you didn't have to do it alone. And if there's help in the future that people from the planning board, zoning board, CHA, or school board can offer assistance or guidance, please just call upon us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Schilling, 40 Station Road. I'm not against the affordable housing, but I just want to support what some of the other speakers have said and to say this farm is not the place for affordable housing. I can't think of a worse location, topped with the fact that you're going to take a man's farm who does not want to sell his farm, who's received offers from developers and has not sold. And now we're going to take it by eminent domain. I can't even believe that our township committee is considering this. I've lived here 40 years and I've lived through all the rounds of affordable housing. And this is the first time that we didn't know what was going on. And I feel very deceived because I came to a lot of township committee meetings with CHA, and you pretended that you were going to listen to us, and you didn't. You already had a developer. I mean, that's what it looks like. So anyway, I'm very disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mike DeRosa, 6 Station Road, and I am adamantly against the acquisition of 1234 South River Road in particular. You've seen the residents taking time to be here tonight. You have heard their concerns, no secret. But tonight, the GoFundMe for Andy's legal expenses is now up to $4,000. You're hearing residents say no, and we're funding the legal fight to sue the town, their own town, our town. So please say no to this vote, because we will fight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stacy Butevich. I am a resident actually in Plainsboro at 312 Aspen Drive. I'm here. I'm actually a realtor who specializes in selling farm properties. Luckily, out of 150 sales, most of our farms don't end up going towards development. We certainly do push to preserve farms. It is understandable that Andy didn't want to preserve the farm because he planned on being there for all those years and didn't want to use resources where they could have been allocated in other ways. The fact is, this isn't a Cranbury problem. It's an everywhere problem. I go to all 21 counties just about, and wherever there's farmland and we can sell it, we're hearing the same things over and over. Cranbury didn't suddenly become a town that lacks sewer. It's been that way for the most part. The committee can talk about the Constitution and COA housing, but Andy has a privilege to his constitutional rights also, to own property. Cranbury allowed so many warehouses to be built, and then everyone is looking around and can't find land. Wonder where it went. The time to rezone property was then, not now, not Andy's farm. Andy's family has had a plan for his farm for 150 years. Where has Cranbury's plan been? I understand with COA housing that if it is not fulfilled, the town can lose its right to oversee zoning and master plans. Well, maybe it's time for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the hallway that wants to speak?
Hello, Kevin Golisano, 15 Prospect Street. I know you're all volunteering your time to serve our town, and thank you for that. There are dozens and dozens of other professionals who do volunteer this time. You work with them all the time on the different boards and committees. You got to include them, you got to reach out. It's been done before. They've worked very hard on all of this. And you're really missing out on a wealth of knowledge and better ways of doing things. This feels like we're out of ideas, and this is the wrong way to go. Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? Okay. Thank you, Andy.
Okay, so good evening. I'm Andy Henry. I'm one of the owners of this family farm and homestead on South River Road. I grew up in Cranbury. I love this town as much as all of you do. And I deeply appreciate all those who have supported us in keeping this property. Thank you very much. I went to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, right above our heads. My great-great-grandfather's name is etched into a stained glass window right here in the Methodist Church. But it occurred to me that our ownership structure is confusing because we look like an investment company. So why are we called Henry Realty Company? It's because when my elderly parents were doing estate planning, their lawyer just chose that name and registered it with the state. I don't know if they had even had any input in it. So, but it was done strictly for the purpose of transferring ownership of the farm to my brother and I over a period of years. And that ownership transfer was completed in 2013. Now, the only real estate that was ever in this limited liability company and that ever will be is the farmland and the house, plus whatever cash we have to add annually to cover taxes, insurance, and repairs. In the 12 years since my brother and I have had full ownership, we've put over $200,000, and we intend to keep maintaining that payments to keep the farm going. Had I received a call from the town council, I could have explained our exact situation, that we weren't an investment company, that we're a family with deep ties to Cranbury, and in fact, those ties predate the purchase of the farm in 1850. So if the town council thought this is an investment company, well, now you know you made a mistake. It wasn't. You now have the opportunity to set things right and cancel this taking. So please do so. Now look, right here, right where we are on the township line is exactly 1/2 mile from exit 8A of the turnpike, highly sought by developers who have been trying to get us to sell for over 30 years, and we resisted. But had we done so, this property would have already been a warehouse, and you'd have to find another place. So that's what you should do. Find another place. Just pretend this is a warehouse there already. Okay. Well, thank you. Now, this farm has exactly what this town prides itself in. It has open space, rich history, with a farmhouse as historic as the one we debated for 90 minutes 2 weeks ago. And it's in much better shape. And we just want to keep the farm in our family. Thank you.
Is there any further public comment? Out in the hallway. Can someone do a gut check for me? No one? No? Okay, hearing none, we're going to close the public hearing for this ordinance. Am I making a motion? Okay. I need a motion to vote on Cranbury Ordinance 042505.
I'll move.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
We'll move on to roll call. Mr. Christopher?
Yes.
Mrs. Elbadawi?
Yes.
Dr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mayor Kinnear?
Yes.
Unanimous. Thank you.
I hope it happens to your houses and your families.
Don't forget who you vote for. Don't forget your own farms. Remember your own farms, your own properties. Remember it. Lots of property out there.
Somebody up there lives there.
Can I get a motion to pass consent resolutions A and B?
So move.
So move. Sorry. Second.
Thank you. Move on to roll call. Mr. Christopher?
Yes.
Ms. Elbadawi?
Yes.
Dr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
And Mayor Kinnear?
Yes.
Thank you.
I will now open it up to public comment. This is general public comment. If there's additional public comment on any other matter outside of that resolution or ordinance, I can open it up. You don't have to raise your hand. You just go up and sign your name.
Stole the pen.
Sorry.
Do you need this?
Nope, nope, nope.
Oh, you put a new list. I got you. I got
Good evening. I know you had a tough meeting tonight. I apologize for my fellow public members, but you know the emotions. I'm here representing the Historical Society to go back to a meeting 2 weeks ago. I just really asking the question when you will take up the discussion of the Dancer House so we can hear everyone's opinion to know whether the society has to provide additional information or whether the information provided, especially by HPC, leads you to the conclusion that the house should be saved, and the sooner the better. Certainly, proper maintenance needs to be done now, and I think it's in the deed restriction and your right to tell the owner, put some at least temporary protection on that roof so the house can be saved. But I think, again, the evidence and the information provided, even by their own structural engineer, does say the house can be saved. So we look forward to the public discussion to hear what committee feels should be done.
If I can address it, I believe the follow-up was that we were going to get some additional engineering reports and contacts so that a more comprehensive evaluation of the property could be made. And I believe that the current chair of HPC, Jennifer Setmeyer, felt that she had some good context that she could then provide the property owner. I believe, if I'm misspeaking, let me know, but that to me was the immediate follow-up.
So the burden is on HPC to provide additional information?
They basically said that they had a list at their fingertips that they could provide, which is why they rose their hand to
Okay,
be
but
that
again,
resource.
the concern is that you need to at least get a tarp over that roof so it doesn't keep going, because it'll be 2, 3, 4 months. And
That I can't address. That wasn't specifically mentioned, but we can make it a follow-up to see if those names or companies have
Okay.
been
we'll
given to
follow
the
up with
proper-
Jennifer then.
Yeah,
Okay,
well, we'll do the same
okay.
to make sure that those names were provided to the property owner, because that was the next step.
The ball is in their court. The ball's in the property owner's court. So they
To-
have
to
work
get
they
this-
have to do.
Okay, well, you're saying we're waiting for HPC to provide information.
They may have already.
Okay.
I don't know,
Okay.
but to get that report done and completed is on the property owner. That's
Okay.
the expectation.
But as long as it doesn't sit for another 6 months or a year and that's the concern.
It can't based on the fact that we're asking them to address this.
Right. So we
Right.
just to move it along.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oop, this one. Steve Golsano, Prospect Street. I wanted to follow up on what Mark said again, just to really lay it down. I know that you said that it's in the property owner's court to do this, and you're saying it's actually not right. Once they submitted a report to you as the township officials showing the building in the state that it's in, it actually should automatically trigger the ordinance that I believe it's maintenance ordinance for chapter 16. Is that right? It's in the documents that things have to be kept weather tight, and it's in the code of Cranbury's maintenance ordinance. So the zoning official is, I believe, the executing officer for who has to. That's not okay.
Property maintenance is not the zoning officer.
It's an
and
enforcement officer. It's not quite
it's not the
stipulated who it
zoning
is. So
officer.
who is the?
It's Jerry Thorne.
Okay, so does an official complaint have to be made by
Yes.
someone to Jerry Thorne in order
Yes.
for them to follow
Yes,
to
and if you
maintain
can
the
see
property?
from the road that there is an opening in the roof, or there's not windows or a door's ajar, if there's anything in that code that he can see from the road, he won't go around the house. He doesn't.
That's
go on
fine. He doesn't
property.
have to go anywhere near the house because the structural engineers submitted a report showing that the roof is leaking and showing that there are openings in the side of the building. So all the information that Jerry needs is in the reports that were submitted by the owners themselves.
Someone needs to make a complaint. in
Then
writing.
an official, I'll probably be following up with an official complaint,
Okay.
whether that's done on behalf of the Historical Society as a trustee member or whether it's a personal one. If there needs to be multiple complaints, if that would help, we would be happy to provide multiple complaints. Probably
will
one
be
would do.
enough.
Okay. So that is, just wanted to get that because it seemed like a technicality was tripping that up from happening. So the fact that there's documentation on their part that shows this should automatically show that they have to maintain it. This is even regardless of what decision is being made on the building because it's still being made. So I just would also remind you that to please consider the whole structural engineers' words themselves of how the foundations were good. The parts can be replaced one part at a time. And if you were to look under any piece of aluminum on a piece of house on Main Street, ones that are being replaced currently, patching and repairing, fixing, you'll notice that the state of soffits, trim, and other elements that are mainly cosmetic for the building that look, they're tough, are fixable, totally fixable. The structure, if it's one piece that needs to be repaired, it gets repaired. Things that were not understood by certain structural engineers are understood by others, and it's a repairable building. So just want to still put that out there, and thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Two different sessions of public comment, so. Yeah, technically.
Hey, I just wanted to say that I'm really disappointed in all of you tonight. You had an opportunity. You heard from the public who you represent, how we felt as a town, and you could have taken a step and say no and stood up, and instead you all said yes. And I'm sorry. I feel sorry that you had to vote that way. But I don't approve, and I really wish you had thought that through and voted the other way. I'd rather take our chance fighting the state and proving how wrong this number is for Cranbury, that it's so bad that we have to take somebody's farm to build on, that we have to take anybody's property to build on. How is that fair? How is that equitable? that we have to take somebody's property that their family grew up and were raised on. The farm that they built, I remember when it was a tree farm and it was a mess. They spent a lot of time and money cleaning it up to make it the farm that it is now. And I just wish there was more that we could do. I wish there was more that you did do, and I'm sorry.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll close public comment. Are there any action items that were captured this evening? Right. I will follow up on the engineering contacts for the Dancer House to make sure that they were provided to the Pertinics, and if not, then the request will be that they need to find their own if they haven't been given them. Any other action items? Okay. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Hold on, you're still live. Shut off your microphone. Please. Please don't start